So I just heard a sports car roll up. I think I know who that is. Thought that might be you.
Uh-oh.
How you doing, man?
Good.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Hey there, buddy. Is this an M3?
Yeah, it's a old school naturally aspirated V8 M3.
Oh.
But it's all tuned up by Gintani, and it's pushing, I don't know, 525 horses.
Are you serious? I'm glad you know what you're doing. Oh, I trust your driving because I know you're a pro. Oh my God, if this was anybody else, I would be freaked out. Oh, holy snap. This thing has no issues just going sideways. Oh. Is this how you usually drive, just on your own too? You just...
Depends on if I'm late or not.
I'm ready to go home now. Yeah? How you doing, Sam?
I want to go home too. I mean, if you really want to go home, sure.
You've never wrecked a car though, huh?
No.
How many tickets have you gotten?
Oh, growing up, a lot of tickets.
Should we go back to the studio and talk about how you film stuff like this all the time?
Sure, sounds good.
All right, let's do it. And you can park here, and you don't have to drift into this. I live here. All right, well, thanks for coming, man.
All right, thank you for
All
having
right,
me.
we have Avi Cohen, director and cinematographer. Action seems like a really fun field to get into. Do you love it?
I like it, yeah.
It's exciting,
I
huh?
get super pumped up. I'm like a kid, you know?
Let me just pull up a couple of clips that you've directed in the past, and some of it's mind-blowing. So I kind of want to talk about some of this.
Yeah, you do this right, I'll give you the world. Let's go.
Helicopters, fast cars, guns, and explosions.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like your recipe?
Yeah.
You're like, every time you work on a project, you're like, it has to have these things, or
Every
else...
time I get money, I try to spend it.
Let's just start with the explosion. What the hell, man? How did that happen?
It was 20 grand for all that.
I would have imagined that insurance was nuts.
Yeah, the
just
insurance
closing down the
was
street.
$7,500.
Was this your idea to blow stuff up?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the treatment.
I imagine it's hard to block off streets. I've never blocked off a street, ever. And especially in LA. But I imagine that's a big deal.
Yeah, basically, if you're downtown, for example, if you're going to have cars running red lights or running stop signs or all this stuff, you can do ITC, intermittent traffic control, with 2 police driving with you, and they can make a spread so you can not have police or people in the shots, and you can drive all over downtown for fairly cheap. But once it comes to breaking the speed limit or drifting or doing things that could hurt people on the sidewalks, for example, because when you're doing ITC, just all pedestrians are there. The cars are spread out, but there's still a lot of stuff that could go south if things go south. You know?
Yeah.
So once you do that, when you talk about clearing streets and barricading intersections, you have to go a block back. So if you need to barricade that intersection, you need to barricade a block back to keep barricades out of your shots, and then you need to barricade another block behind that.
The planning on this must be an intensive process, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of rigorous.
So
you
like,
have to have 1 police officer at each barricade plus a PA at every barricade, and then they have to have a certain system for walkies and for clearing things and working with the AD.
So from the day you were like, okay, we're gonna blow up the 6th Street Bridge, to the day you actually blew it up, how long was that process?
The treatment was written and finalized 2 weeks before the job.
Wow, so you put everything together within 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is this a phantom shot here?
Yeah. That's a Phantom Flex 4K. That's on an Optimo 24-290.
Were there some onlookers?
Well, we had police. We had a lot of barricades back that way, so you couldn't get very close to this. But when we were doing the drifting earlier down by the coffee shops in this piece, there was like a bunch of looky-loos. We were having like a hard time.
And then the helicopter first?
Yeah, York Gallon. I Fly Heli Instagram.
These explosions are also pretty tricky, huh? Because if the explosion goes off a half second too late or too early, you wasted an explosion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The timing that the car enters into the explosion at the right time is important. I just did a action unit, second unit director scene for a film that they did with Pierce Brosnan, Tim Roth, and Nick Cannon.
I remember when you were shooting that project. It was
6 months ago or something.
Yeah, what is it out?
It's called The Misfits, and I think that they just actually did a bunch of pickup shots.
Oh, okay,
It'll
nice.
Be out in 2 months or something.
Okay.
It's a feature directed by Rennie Harlan. I did all the chase scenes that were in LA.
I saw some photos on your IMDb.
Yeah.
So there you are, doing the coordination for that. How many are those 2 stunt drivers?
Yeah, the 6 stunt drivers and then like 15 stunt guys and a stunt coordinator.
What do the stunt coordinators say when you go, hey, this is what I'm thinking? They go,
No,
okay.
I mean, they're pro, you know what I mean?
And then here you are.
That's Deer Creek Road. I don't want to blow the spot out, but it's such a good location to film. It's like 7 miles of scenic with mountains and ocean views, and there's like between Mulholland and the PCH, there's 2 driveways. So you have 2 PAs, and then cop at top and bottom, and you can lock it down with just no money in a really amazing way.
And then, of course, the explosion. Look how tall that freaking explosion is.
Yeah, it's big.
Oh, my God.
It's like 5 stories.
So these explosions make no damage. They just, those are
Oh, there's
for
a lot
show.
of cleanup. There's a lot of cleanup. There's a lot of soot. But yeah, it's not going to like take pieces of the asphalt out. And not that it wouldn't. I'm not sure if the blast is powerful enough to or not, but they have some metal plating and stuff they put in there.
And then, of course, is that same spot right there?
Yeah.
Filming some Ferraris.
Yeah, Deer Creek Road, yeah.
You grew up doing construction, did you say it was?
Yeah, and landscape.
And then at a point where you're like, I want to make films.
I grew up in Kansas in the 90s, and I don't think it was until my late 20s, kind of trying to get out of Kansas and do a little exploration and soul searching, that I found myself in a bunch of gen ed classes in San Francisco after having lived there for a couple years, kind of trying to figure out what was next. I took a film class for an art prereq, and I really liked filmmaking right away. I just wanted to kind of keep taking classes and exploring, exposing myself to kind of new stuff in some way.
When you moved to LA, did you kind of come here with no connections or real resume or real anything
For sure,
like that?
no. I bought a Sony EX1 with the little money I had, and I started to do a lot of time lapse. I shot myself on my motorcycle a lot. I had like a normal 9 to 5 for 2 years here, and then
What was the 9 to 5?
I worked at the puppy store. It was called Orange Bone. It's on
the puppy store?
Melrose. Yeah, they do grooming and so yeah, I worked there.
That would have been the last thing I would have expected.
I was having a hard time getting a job in construction here in California and landscape, and so I just started applying places. I needed a job like stat, and I got hired there. And
So while you were doing the job and school, and what was your methods of trying to find some sort of work as someone that hasn't had too much experience? Oh, now you got to tell us.
I put an ad on Craigslist, and I started to work immediately, and I started to make more than I had made as a construction worker or whatever right away.
Yeah, no, that's how I got my first, I want to say 10 gigs is through Craigslist.
Yeah.
And it was jobs that were like whatever. Because I started when I was living in Northern California. I was 16. I had this like little camera. I think it's this camera right here. Bam! This camera right here. I shot some stuff, edited it, put it up on old YouTube. It was almost all musicians from Oakland that wanted like a rap music video.
Right.
So that's how I started off getting my first $200 paychecks. I think if you, even just through Craigslist or something like that, you get a few gigs and most of them don't really turn into anything. But I feel like if you work really, really hard and you show your value doing those gigs, then at some point or another, someone's going to look at you working and be like, oh, yeah.
I mean, somebody's cousin is on the job that's doing bigger stuff, and they see it. They see the outcome. They see the cut. They like it. They want.
Right.
You know, and at the time, I was definitely just doing everything. Like, it wasn't like cameraman for hire on Craigslist. It was like I had like a director ad up and a producer ad and a camera ad and whatever, you know, editor. I just started to do everything I could, and when I would come on another director's set, I would be like, oh, I can edit. Midway through shooting, midway through creating a Bond beyond Craigslist, like a real life Bond. They weren't no longer worried they hired somebody off Craigslist or whatever. They had some talent there, and they didn't have an editor. I'd come in cheaper, whatever it was. I can edit, you know. And I really think that I learned to be a good director through a lot of that, you know, in some way, like learning to cut stuff that wasn't shot properly and how to save the day, and through seeing what you shouldn't do in a lot of ways, kind of learn what you should do.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when you watch a bad project, that's just as important for learning as when you watch a good one, you know? Right. You get that inspiration from good stuff, but then you think, oh, I could do that, until you try and you make a bunch of mistakes. And then you look at stuff that other people have shot that also have a lot of mistakes. Go, okay, don't do that, don't do that.
Right.
You got to know just as much what not to do as what to do.
A lot of that stuff just stair-stepped. Like, I left Craigslist behind right away, you know? At some point off of Craigslist, I got hired to spend 40 days with Godsmack and some band in the studio making of their album, which led to a bunch of other jobs down the line.
Yeah, and you said you shot something with Rage Against the Machine?
Yeah.
That is dope.
Yeah, I did a Rage documentary in London. It's a cool premise. I mean, long story anyway, but if you just Google Rage versus the X Factor, you'll see the story. It's cool. Being there in London and doing that documentary was really solid for me. It's funny, you just never know, you know, what cultivating what relationship is going to lead you where and what way. You know?
Right. So would you say that a lot of the projects that you were shooting recently were kind of rooted from the few projects that you got off of Craigslist or something like that?
Every job is like 6 degrees of separation from your first job. In business, whether it be creative business or not, I mean, you know, it's the same way with restaurants, you know what I mean? Like, you go to a restaurant, you love it, you recommend it to your friend, and then the place is popular.
A while ago, I was thinking about how every single client that we've ever done work for, you could kind of trace them back to 3 random people that I've met.
Sure.
Some either through friends or through family or through Craigslist.
I don't know if it's necessary to go to film school to learn to be a filmmaker. It's not like being a lawyer and needing to pass the bar in order to practice, right? However, it would have been interesting to have alignment with a bunch of other young professionals that were great writers and great whatever, that were kind of out collaborating, and then I wouldn't have needed to be shooting myself on a motorcycle or snails crawling across the sidewalk with macro lenses or whatever it was that I was trying to do to get something epic.
Yeah, that's a big question. Should you go to film school? And it's a tough one. Like, I don't go to film school, you know, because that could be really bad advice to some people.
Yeah, this is the thing, is that, like, I think that there's lots of routes. This producer came around a while ago, some years ago, that I had teamed up with for a bit, named Kendall Henry. And Kendall produced commercials at Believe and Company with Zack Schneider for like 20 years before Zack went on to do features like 300 and Man of Steel and whatever. They met in film school, you know what I mean? And they became a 20-year veteran producer-director combo. Mm-hmm. So you just don't know. I don't think that there's any right or wrong way to slice it. The couple keys to real success in a creative realm is just time devotion. I mean, you know, you just have to master your craft. You have to devote to it. You have to work hard every day from when you wake up to when you go to sleep, really, to, like, you know, carve out a space for yourself. So commitment, and then at some level, at some point, like, just learning to be, you know, somebody that people really want to work with.
Right, yeah.
You know, it took me a long time to, you know, move over from, like, trying by any means necessary to get the best outcome to, like, becoming the person that a 40-man crew is excited to come in and work for.
As someone that likes filming fast cars and explosions, I bet when you found out you're directing Top Gear America, you must have been stoked.
Yeah, stoked. Yeah.
That's probably, like, one of the most exciting things you could probably come across.
Right. I mean, like, if I was going to do TV, there's not a whole lot of, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, if I had the chops to be doing, like, Westworld, I wouldn't be turning it down. Right? But as far as, like, scripted reality goes, I don't think that I would have said yes to anything at all, much less, like, hell yeah to, like, Top Gear. You know, I mean, I just grew up watching Top Gear. I love cars. I was just getting to, like, revisit my childhood in some way. Before I even knew I was interested in filmmaking, I watched Top Gear religiously, right? So being a part of that was exciting.
Well, we're talking about Top Gear. Maybe we could talk about how to direct an action-packed car chase featuring Avi Cohen. That's the title. I think that's the working title right now. We might change it, but that's probably the title that is underneath this video right now. I'm curious of the workflow going into a project like Top Gear or any other car sequence that you go and shoot. So let's start from the very beginning. The concept idea. Is it you like sitting in a cafeteria with a notebook?
For me, I really need to sit down with some other creatives, at least one that is a good like schoolboy brainstormer. Sometimes I have some like light bulb in the night of my own, but my process is typically to get with another creative.
You see writing as a collaborative process,
for
right?
Me,
yeah. No, I think that's how most shows go.
Right.
So for example, Top Gear was the
team
script
of
handed to you?
writers. Yeah, there's a team of writers.
Okay.
The directors can come up with ideas and pitch the showrunners, but ultimately the showrunners are going to be the ones in contacts with all the car manufacturers. And they have people working for them, so they know whether they're reviewing a Koenigsegg or a Ferrari 458, and then thematically they're going to come up with something for the show thematically that separates this show from the last season, and then they're going to start to try to push the creative in that direction so there's a unified feeling across the show.
So at this point you kind of have your concept, you kind of know what you want. Do you actually go out to the locations and scout them out?
I chose the locations on this. I scouted for 2 days, and I offered them a bunch of locations for a couple of my shows. Man, I don't want to blow my spots out, man, but Wagon Wheel, Torona Pinnacles, Jawbone Canyon. Jawbone Canyon is really incredible because it's an OHV area. It's an off-road vehicle area.
Okay.
So you can go drive all over those mountains with dirt bikes and camera cars. And
Ooh, that's got to be fun.
And this Class 1 buggy, it's really incredible landscape. And then it has, I would say, a 7-mile long road that dead end. So again, you can block it off with two police officers and do ITC on a 7-mile stretch. Top Gear had money, you know what I mean? They didn't need to like save money. And so I wasn't like looking for a place to do it cheaply because they needed to save money. But if they only need to pay 2 police so we can shoot a 7-mile stretch instead of 15 police and barricading, and we can shoot all this stuff, then they have another alternate 25 or 30K in police and barricading money that they can put into other stuff in the same segment and just bring the production value up.
Never hurts to save money in one place if you can, huh?
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah, and location scouting is one of those things that we've been trying to do a lot more of. I've been trying to at least do 1 day a week of just location scouting.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it almost feels like a waste of time, but it's not. It's so valuable to have a list of locations. I've tried filming just basic driving shots out of a van, and even that feels a little bit difficult to coordinate. So you must plan quite a bit beforehand, right?
There's a lot of pre-pro that goes into it.
Are you a believer that the film gets made in pre-production?
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah, because by the time you get there, you're just executing a
plan.
Look,
especially when you have this many moving pieces, beyond it looking good, there's just a huge safety factor, and you don't want to have somebody hurt.
Do you kind of do the thing with Hot Wheels, and you go, you're gonna go here,
1,000%.
You get a bunch of those, and you go, okay, this is the way you're gonna. That seems cool.
The stunt coordinator's always gonna bring their own Hot Wheels.
Their favorite Hot Wheels. I imagine how that's useful. Because you can physically see everything opposed to like trying to draw it on a piece of paper or something. And then is this all storyboarded also?
They definitely don't require that. And I storyboarded the first episode that I did, and then I let that go.
It's all just kind of in your. Do you have like a shot list?
I have a like really nasty shot list, like really like obsessive. It's color coordinated. It's color coded. It's got a key at the top, and it's got everything from the tool the camera is on, the focal length, how it's going to move, what direction it's going to move. It's a really detailed shot list. And this project, and really, anything with money behind it that wasn't just for fun that I've shot over the last 5 years or something, you can put it back together almost shot for shot.
Yeah, I noticed that the bigger the projects get, the more time and money they're willing to spend on the pre-production, because you kind of have to. I know a few second unit directors and stunt coordinators, and they just shoot so many previs.
If you can put together previs, it's important, especially if you have a lot of rehearsals. It's easy to do pre-revis with talent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whereas with car stuff, it's not quite as easy to go to.
Right, because you have to have all the cars,
and all the stuff. But what I would say, and what I would urge filmmakers, if there's any listening out there that are in a less budgeted realm. I mean, when you go out there and make your own content, that you're looking to grow with, if you can execute whatever previs and shot lists and storyboards and just kind of get in the habit of doing that, your stuff is going to be stronger because your competition's doing it. Even if you feel like, oh, well, your creative happens in the moment and that you're going to go out there and you're going to manifest it or whatever, like I assure you, if you just go do some pre-production, it'll be even stronger. You'll have the opportunity to innovate rather than building the structure on the fly. You know,
right.
You're to have the structure and spend that same time you would have to devote partially to structure, you'll be able to devote only to really sweetening things.
The 2 projects I shot with a previs, like we got the set and I finished kind of early. And I was like, wow, this never happens.
Right.
But it's great to have that confidence that, oh, this is the shot I'm going to be on when this line gets set. With your producing experience, you really know how much stuff costs.
Yeah.
So for example, this spot right here, that I'm pretty sure everyone's cringing right now. What did you do to that Ferrari?
You know, that was actually really successful at the time. This is me, like a more immature version of me as a filmmaker and less budgeted, you know? Because, like, man, had I had money, because I would have had a Moco unit in there and a Phantom. But instead, it's like a slider that's repeatable. That's like, it's a Matthews slider or something that keeps, because I wanted some movement on it, right? But there wasn't very much money.
Not enough to bang up a Ferrari.
And right, yeah, for sure not. But it was really successful in that it had 3 million hits day one. And then Ferrari lost their mind and sent cease and desist letters.
Do you want to reveal the secret on how you did it?
Yeah, that's no problem. That's no problem. I made a mistake choosing a red Ferrari. I'd had that the picture car first, devoted to the job, and had I had it to redo, I definitely would have not chosen red because every car I found on Craigslist sub $2,000 that was red was all faded. I guess this red paint doesn't hold up. Over 15 years, it becomes like chipped and faded, and the clear coat, it was crazy. But I eventually found painstakingly, before I had producers helping me, 1989 Oldsmobile Alero that had some body parts that had a similar shape as the Ferrari. And I called a VFX guy and I was like, hey, I want to paint this stuff together. This is my plan. Is it possible for like $1,000 to do this VFX work? And I ordered a foam sledgehammer off of Amazon. It was just a wooden handle with a foam mallet. And what we would do is we would put the Ferrari in there, and then I had talent walk down the Ferrari and swing the hammer and not hit it, so we could get reflections. So we shot a plate of the Ferrari alone, and then we moved the Ferrari out and we moved the Olds in there, and I made sure that the body panel she was hitting was in the exact same place, distance-wise from the camera, that the body panel from the Ferrari was. And then she basically came down and with the same motion movement on the slider, and she just mashed the Olds as hard as she could. And then it was really, really simple, low maintenance VFX roto and paint work, because basically all they did was roto around the front of her, around the sledgehammer, and then say 6 inches around the dent. And then they slapped that on top of the other one, and then boom, painted the red together, and that was it.
I mean, that looks clean.
Everybody in the world thought that we smashed a Ferrari.
It looks so real.
Yeah, I can point out some imperfections on the interior. Yeah, once we get inside the car and she breaks the window out, she hadn't broken the windshield. See? So look, so if we pause it there, look over on the right, we see the windshield. That's VFX breakage in the windshield.
Oh,
see?
Okay.
Like she broke out a real window, right? And then he shaped the window and he rotated the seat out and moved it forward because the window of the Olds isn't long like that.
Oh,
so
okay.
There's just a couple things he did, but he did good, man. The people that like don't know producing as well may not ever get anywhere because they don't think within a reasonable realm of making creative. But on the flip side, the ones that do and align themselves with a great producer that can tell them no and they can start to learn some of that stuff but focus only on great creative, they're the ones I think that just fire off, you know, and become really great. And I feel like that's probably one of my big crutches and something I need to get away from is that like every production I get my hands on is really challenging because I'm always trying to figure out how, both for my client and for myself, to kind of take it to the next level. Even if it's a 7-figure job I'm doing, I'm trying to figure out how to make it look like double that.
Where are you looking to go next? What's the next stage of life for you?
On one level, I feel behind a lot of the time because, again, you know, you're like, yeah, when I was 16, I started to do X. And I think that's a lot of filmmakers' story, right? Is that they've been doing it since they were crawling or whatever. And so I started it like basically at 30. So it's easy for me to feel behind, but on the flip side, if it becomes the ultimate goal for me, feature film, you don't see too many feature film directors doing big budget, successful feature that don't have completely gray hair. I think for the first time in my filmmaking career, starting to maybe in the doc end of things generate some of my own IP. I've never done that. I've done a ton of documentary, but I've never just kind of conceptualized my own feature length thing and spent my own money doing it and then gave my hand at selling it my way, you know?
Right.
So I think that's there somewhere down the line. We'll see, you know? I think that I'd like to align myself with the right writers and figure out how to take my first step into something longer form narrative. You know, a goal on some level, and this is a vain thing to say, I think, but if I can leave the world just a slightly sweeter place than I found it, that's one of my goals, you know what I mean? I think I'm evolved enough some way right now to put a piece of my heart into something longer form.
Well, good deal. Thanks for coming by and sharing some of your wisdom.
Thanks again.
We should go eat some spicy food soon again. This guy's the king of spicy food.
I kind of felt bad last time.
No, it was, man, every time we go out and eat,
yeah.
you take us to the spiciest place, which is great. We love spicy food, but like we're like dripping in sweat and you're just like, yeah,
I think that there's some kind of like
something wrong with you.
There's some kind of with spice. There's some kind of it's the same. It stimulates some of the endorphins. I think that your adrenaline. You know what I mean? It's the same as like bungee jumping or something. You know? Makes you remember you're alive. You know?